fret not, because it does get easier over time. If you include these daily practices little by little, it becomes easier and it doesn't feel so monumental. And it actually simplifies your life so much when you take into consideration and start living these foundational, simple principles in ways that we are supposed to thrive. Hey guys, welcome to the Ellen Fisher podcast. Today we're going to be getting into part 2 of simplifying plant-based nutrition and tips to thrive. In part 1 of the last episode, we covered a lot of different things. We talked about the overwhelming science showing the benefits of eating whole plant foods, and also the science showing the increased risk of cardiovascular diseases, chronic illnesses, strokes, high blood pressure, and autoimmune diseases for eating a diet that is high in animal products. I also touched a little bit on our basics of our biological design, simple understandings that have been suppressed over time for us since we were children, which really helps to just basically understand how we were designed to naturally thrive. I touched a little bit on my healing journey and also got into information about the blue zones and some nutrition tips as well. But today we're going to be diving deeper and exploring more intimately about details on helping you to thrive on a plant-based diet long-term, including what foods you can eat and meal planning and shopping lists and how to center your plate, possibly center your plate if that's what works for you, and a little bit on supplements. And I'm also going to go into more depth about the blue zones and other lifestyle factors that can help promote longevity for us over time, because health is so much more than just what you eat. And if you'd like to get even more tips than I share in this episode today, you can get any of my ebooks at ellenfisher.com, filled with beginner vegan tips, health tips, and encouragement, all of our family's favorite recipes that are both delicious and nourishing, tips for raising healthy plant-based kids, and more. First, let's just cover the basics of, if you're new to this lifestyle, you might be wondering, what do I eat? You've been eating a standard American diet or different kinds of diets with animal foods in them for your entire life. Now, how do I jump into this lifestyle? I firstly want to mention that there is no one way to eat plant-based. Even within whole foods plant-based eating, there are numerous ways to do it that's going to help you personally thrive. So don't compare yourself to other people, because it's going to vary a little bit here and there depending on person to person. And don't compare what you're eating to someone on Instagram. I'm on Instagram. You guys know me. I share a lot of what I'm eating. Get inspired, yes, but you do not need to compare or try to copy and make your foods look exactly like someone else, because what's available to you in your location is going to be way different than what's available to me. So if I'm eating a lot of bananas and local coconuts, that doesn't mean you actually are going to have access to those foods, or maybe the bananas at your store are so crappy and not even worth getting. Fret not, you do not have to eat bananas to be healthy. There are lots of different ways to eat whole foods plant-based, and different types of fruits, for instance, just within this one category that you can be eating. Also, not to mention, the foods that someone else is eating may vary for what's going to help you feel your best. It's going to be a little bit different, and we're all individuals. And while we have like a broader understanding of what's going to help us as a species feel our best, it doesn't mean that there's not going to be little variances here and there. So you definitely don't want to be comparing yourself to someone else. And the foods that people eat in different parts of the world can be completely different, but both whole foods and both balanced. So that's just something really important to remember. If you're in a part of the world in Asia, or you're in the US, or you're in Europe, it's gonna be completely different based on what's available to you and what's gonna taste the best as well. Especially fresh produce is gonna be different completely. All right, something really important to address is that one of the biggest mistakes that people make when they're first trying to go plant-based is not eating enough calories. And I know I mentioned this in the first episode, but it is very important to mention again. It's super important to not only take away the foods that you're used to eating, but to replace them with other nutritious and calorically dense plant foods. So for example, if you're used to eating a chicken salad throughout your week and it has feta in it and an oil-based dressing, you can't just take away the chicken, take away the feta, and take away the oil dressing and replace it with this low-calorie plant-based dressing. You have to replace it with nutritious and calorically dense plant foods to help you feel your best and to feel satisfied, not only for nutrition, the nutritious aspect, but also for the calories. So this is obviously just one example, but if you take away the chicken, replace it with some chickpeas, which are high in protein. And instead of the feta, make some nice creamy almond crumble to place on top. And instead of the oil-based dressing, Add some avocado for those healthy fats to your salad. This is just one example, of course. I could also use the same response for like a black bean stew. If you're used to doing like a chicken broth or in your stews, replace that with a vegetable broth, and then instead of adding chicken, make sure to add extra beans to those to your soup. I don't know why I said chicken twice, but that's just what came to mind for the first thing for me. Another thing is to make sure that you are centering your plate in a holistic, balanced way. And maybe this is going to be a little different for some people, but in general, I have found it over the years super helpful that when you're creating a meal, to have a balance of a carb-rich food, a carb-dominant food, a protein-rich food, and a fat-rich food on your plate for most meals. That doesn't mean every single meal, because there's a lot of times where I wake up in the morning and I'm ready to eat something, but I'm not necessarily in the mood or desiring to eat a whole big meal. And so I'll just start with like a mango, or start with some fresh fruit, or a small smoothie for my day, or even some fresh juice. But when it comes to I'm ready to eat like a meal that's going to satisfy me and last me multiple hours, it's really helpful to learn what foods are rich in different macronutrients so you can make your plate accordingly. So, for example, avocados, coconuts, nuts, and seeds are rich in fats, and hemp seeds even is rich in protein and fat. So if I'm going to make a smoothie in the morning and I'm ready for that to be my meal to last me multiple hours, I'm going to be adding at least a couple tablespoons of hemp seeds into my smoothie, maybe even some plant milk to up those calories, along with the fruits and vegetables, not just to have just fruits and vegetables. And in the past, throughout my journey, I've definitely had times where I only did like the fresh fruits and vegetables. And over time, I've just found it really helpful to add those hemp seeds or different seeds like flax seeds and chia seeds to my smoothies, because it's also not only more filling, but also really nutritious to add those foods into your smoothies as well. But you may not be into smoothies, and that is completely okay. You do not have to drink green smoothies or any kind of smoothie to sustain on a whole foods plant-based diet. Like I said earlier, it all comes down to finding what works for you and what's available to you. I live a very fast-paced lifestyle. I am very busy with the 4 kids and running a business. So a lot of times a smoothie is just my easiest way to make sure I'm getting my greens in, but also to just get those calories in while I'm out and about and I'm on the go. A lot of times we're just heading out somewhere, and that's just the fastest thing for me. But there's other ways to eat really fast meals as well, especially in the morning. You can make oatmeal, and if you like oatmeal and that's sustainable for you, make the oatmeal, put some maple syrup in it and some ground flax seeds or different seeds as well, fresh fruit on top, cinnamon, you name it. Back to talking about eating until you're full and getting enough calories. I once had a friend who said, I tried eating vegan for a few days and I was just so tired and hungry all the time. Mind you, this is like a pretty big dude. He's a big guy. And I'm like, man, why did you not talk to me about this? What did you eat? I could have helped you over these 3 days. What were you eating over those 3 days? He said, I pretty much just ate a salad for 3 days in a row, for 3 meals a day, not even. Because he didn't really go shopping. He ended up just taking the foods that he did have at his house that was plant-based and wing it. He was like, I'm just going to not eat the animal foods that are in my fridge. I'm just going to eat whatever plant foods I have. And that for him was pretty much just salads. I'm like, you cannot just eat salads 3 times a day. That is not going to be like filling you up or be nutritious for you, because you're not going to be able to get that wide variety of plant foods and make sure that you're getting enough calories. I cannot stress enough how important it is to get enough calories and eat until you're totally satisfied, which is completely different than almost every diet out there. Most diets are restrictive in some form or another because animal foods and processed foods are very high in calories. So you have to train your body to not eat until you're totally satisfied or as much as you want most of the time for a lot of diets, because they're so calorie rich. But when you're eating a whole foods plant-based diet or a plant predominant diet, you're eating a lot of foods that are naturally low in calories and high in water and fiber. So it takes some getting used to eat more bites of food than you used to before. And you know, what's really helpful to understand is that when you're not eating enough calories, you're much more likely to have a desire to lean towards foods that are not as optimal or as healthy for you, simply because generally the foods that are not as healthy for you, like processed foods, tend to be really quite high in calories. And your body is signaling to you that you need more calories or possibly even more nutrition. So if you're not eating a nutritious diet that's rich in vitamins and minerals are so important for you to feel your best, on top of the calories, making sure you're getting calorically rich foods. and eating till you're full, you're more likely to gravitate towards those foods that are not as healthy for you. So if you get to the end of the day and you're like, I'm consistently at the end of my evening craving something sweet, that could mean that you're not getting enough carbs in your diet and enough sweet fruit in your diet. Doesn't always mean that's the case, and it's totally normal to, at the end of the day, want to eat something sweet sometimes here and there. But if that's like a consistent thing for you, where you find yourself even after dinner craving something sweet and you're still hungry even after a pretty good size portion dinner, then that might mean that you're not eating enough earlier in the day and to get on top of eating more. And, my dad eats plant-based now after so many years. He actually he ate like paleo back when I first went plant-based. And at the time, he was like, yeah, I'm definitely going to be eating my meat. I'm not going to be eating plant-based with you. But over the years, something shifted. And it wasn't actually until just, I think, a few years ago, it might be 3 years ago now, where he started eating more plant-based. And especially for him as a man, it takes more getting used to ensure that you're eating enough calories, eating calorically rich foods. But this is, of course, for women as well. But just because men in general need more calories, that in the beginning he wasn't eating enough and he kept feeling lethargic and tired. And that's truly a symptom, not always, but it can be a symptom of not getting enough calories in your diet. Once he started upping his calories, I came to his house and I showed him, look, Dad, this meal that you're making for breakfast is just not sufficient. It's about half the size that you need. You need to be doubling this cereal bowl that you're eating with granola, double it in size, add some fresh fruit onto it as well, add more of the granola on top, maybe even have a smoothie on the side. And he's like, oh, okay, I get it now. And suddenly he realized how to eat in a way that's going to help him feel sustained and have great energy consistently throughout the whole day. All right, I want to talk a little bit about going shopping and shopping lists, meal planning. Some people find it really helpful to meal plan out those 2 weeks for what they're going shopping for. And other people kind of have more of a routine and a plan to just have their consistent staple foods that they're going to want to always have in their kitchen at all times. Because there's certain foods that's just going to be really convenient and easy for you to make something in a pinch when you don't know where you're going to head next, what you're going to make next. You don't want to have to plan like these amazing dinners every night. And sometimes you just want to open the cupboard and know, okay, I see the whole wheat pasta or the brown rice pasta. I see the tomato sauce. Okay, I got some beans here. Let's put that together and make a meal. So for us, that looks a lot like tomato sauces and pastas, like dried goods that can last a long time. So rolled oats as well as dried beans. We do a lot of dried beans, and dried beans are so much more affordable than buying canned beans. They're actually the cheapest foods on the planet, dried beans and whole grains. A lot of people think that eating vegan can be super expensive, and it can. It really depends on how you're eating. If you're eating a lot of highly processed vegan foods and not very many whole grains and beans, it can get quite expensive. And also, depending on your location, how expensive fruits and vegetables are to you. But if you're centered around the staples of your diet, eating whole grains, beans, and tubers, you're going to have a much easier time eating this way that's sustainable price-wise for you as well. And also just when you're at the house, to have that on hand and know that you could whip up some sweet potato fries or potato fries to dip in guacamole in a pinch, or to make some pasta or a bean chili based on having tomato sauces and beans on hand. So I actually have done YouTube videos about this. I have like go shopping with us, like planning, what's it called? Food planning list ahead, and you can check that out on my YouTube channel. I'll put that down below on my regular YouTube channel, Ellen Fisher. But there's so many different ways that you can plan ahead and make sure that you're getting your staples. So write out the list of all the stuff that you definitely want to have on hand, not just dried goods, but also fresh fruits and vegetables. So you're going to find over time what fruits and vegetables you most gravitate towards. So for us, that could mean like broccoli and cauliflower, and we love bell pepper and those non-sweet fruits like bell pepper and cucumber. We love carrots. We use carrots in a lot of different things, and so on. But we also find it really helpful to branch out and try new foods every week. We like to see whatever new food that we can add, specifically fruits and vegetables, to our diets. And that might be a different kind of bean. So like normally we'll be buying like kidney beans or black beans. But for our stews last week, we decided to buy those white northern beans and try it in our soups. And it was super delicious. If you're shopping at the farmers markets, you can get what's local and available to you. Or if you're not able to go to the farmers markets and you're getting at a regular grocery store, look for what fruits are on sale, because generally those are what's best in season, that they're ripening really well, and also it's more affordable. So for us, at certain times of the year where blueberries that are imported here are a great price, where there's other times of the year where the blueberries are like $8 for a little carton, and we're definitely not buying the blueberries at that time of the year. But when they're on sale, when they're in season, and it's like $4 for 2 cartons of blueberries that are organic, we definitely go for those. We'll eat a whole bunch of them. My kids love the berries. And speaking of kids, I need to do a whole episode or multiple episodes on child nutrition. That's definitely going to be happening over time. Some other great staple foods is sourdough bread. We love whole wheat sourdough bread. My kids love avocado toast, and it's a great way to get like a great snack in, or to pair the avocado toast with some beans and fruit on the side. But I find whole wheat sourdough bread, to have that on hand, is a great food to have. Unless if you're eating gluten-free, then you can get gluten-free bread or gluten-free tortillas. But corn tortillas, gluten-free tortillas, those are great things to have on hand as well, or whole wheat tortillas, depending on how you're eating. It can also be helpful to find certain recipes online that you are inspired to create that week, and then base your grocery list off of that. Don't overwhelm yourself and think you're going to make a brand new dish 7 days a week, every single week. That's just way too overwhelming. I think sticking with like a new recipe once a week or twice a week is sustainable, at least for us, what we like to do. And also, don't get stuck in the same cuisine. Branch out. There are so many amazing plant-based foods that taste so delicious that I would have never considered before I was vegan. I never used to eat lentil dal before I was vegan, and now I realize that you can make lentils so creamy and they taste so good. And actually, the beginning of my plant-based journey, I never really ate that many beans, and then over time, I really developed a desire to eat them and feel really good on them, and my kids love them as well. My kids have always loved the beans, though, since they were little. But lentil dal, going off on a tangent there, lentil dal, choosing all different kinds of Indian cuisines, Asian cuisines, and not just sticking with like American or pasta, is a great way for you to get exciting your palate or to excite your palate and to really start enjoying plant-based foods in a whole new way. It can be fun to take your favorite traditional foods and turn them into a vegan dish, and you can honestly find that anywhere online. Type in, I want to make vegan nachos. How do I make vegan nachos? Which, by the way, my ebook, Epic Vegan Cravings, has the most amazing nachos recipe you have to get your hands on, and it's healthy too. And that's one of my favorite parts about my ebooks, is because I love turning traditional foods that you love into plant-based foods that are not only vegan, but also nutritious. So gotta try those nachos. Yeah, so definitely don't be afraid to turn your favorite foods into a vegan version, and that's whole food focused. It might not be totally whole foods, or maybe you can find a super whole foods version of the way that the meal that you ate before. But also, like I said, don't get stuck in the same meals that you always ate, because the possibilities are endless. Pad thais and creamy lentil soups and all different kinds of things that you never really ate before you were plant-based can turn into some delicious meals for you. Okay, I also want to talk a little bit about the difference between what is processed foods, whole foods, but there's also something in between that's like minimally processed foods. And we definitely like to get those foods in our diet, and it's helpful to understand the difference, to know that like this does not mean that like everything you bring home from the grocery store has to be just the fruits and vegetables and the beans. That is like definitely like the staple of our diet, you know, the whole grains and all that, and fresh fruits and vegetables. But we love to complement our dishes with convenient foods that are minimally processed. So an example of a minimally processed food is something that has whole foods as the source of what you're eating, but it might be turned into something different than just being completely whole foods, and it has minimal ingredients. So a good example for that would be pasta. Whole wheat pasta, brown rice pasta, chickpea pasta, quinoa pasta. When you look at the ingredients, generally there's only 1 to 3 ingredients, and they're all whole plant food ingredients. And so we love to stock up on the pastas. Another example is salsas and tomato sauces. We love to add salsas to our Mexican dishes, and tomato sauces in our soups and our pastas, and really enchilada sauces, all different kinds of dishes. So we definitely always have that on hand. Other examples of minimally processed foods that are great additions to your diet is like corn tortillas or whole wheat tortillas. Just check the ingredients, because sometimes corn tortillas can have a lot of added ingredients that are not great for your health, versus you can find tortillas that are 100% organic corn. But it also depends on your budget. And if you have a really tight budget and the best you can do is the corn tortillas that are in bulk that have some added ingredients as opposed to getting those awesome little small packages with 100% organic corn, like just do the best you can and get those other tortillas, because it's all about a journey and a transition, and whatever time and life phase that you're in, do not beat yourself up about not being perfect. That is one of the reasons why I love this lifestyle so much, because there's such an emphasis on food freedom and finding a way to work out this diet that works for you. There does not need to be like these strict, hard and fast rules. That's never going to sustain you and work out long term. The goal is for you to move freely through your day without having to spend so much energy and time and mental energy on the foods that you're eating. Now, in the beginning, you might have a transition phase, especially if you're not used to cooking. It might take a little bit of effort to find out what foods make you feel your best and what foods you like the best, especially if you're transitioning from your taste buds. And just know that you can make whatever dish you want. You could make the most amazing creamy pasta that takes 2 hours to make. And believe me, we do make those kind of dishes every once in a while, because I'll get this like amazing hankering for like a creamy pasta that, man, just like satisfies me to my soul, because I'm all about creamy pastas. Or you can make the most simple meal that you can have for your heart's desire. So you could just pop a sweet potato in the oven, just fork it before you pop it in the oven, let it bake for an hour. And then after it's cooked and it's soft, you open it up, top with some canned black beans, some avocado and salsa, and you have yourself a nutritious meal. And I think a good way to have like balance is to, especially depending on what you enjoy. If you like those decadent meals, but you just don't have the time as like a parent to make the most decadent meals all the time, just find a balance to do a lot of really simple meals throughout the day and the week. And then maybe once or twice a week, you dabble in like a super amazing dish that takes a little while and takes a little bit of creativity to create and follow a recipe for. So some important factors that we hit already. Eat more bites of food than you did when you're eating an animal foods-based diet. That could mean adding more food to your plate than you did prior. And also make sure to eat till you're totally satisfied. Once you get to that rhythm of understanding intuitively how much you need to eat and eating until you're full, starting when you're hungry, eat when you're hungry and stop when you're full. This is something that we have been conditioned to not do from a very young age. Most of us, a lot of us, when raised on a standard American diet or a diet that's rich in animal foods. Once you start eating a whole foods plant-based diet, it's very easy over time to learn to eat when you're hungry and stopping when you're full. And for you, this could mean that you want to eat more often. You might want to eat 4 or 5 times a day, or you might prefer 3 big meals a day. I like to eat about 4 times a day, sometimes 5, sometimes 3. It just depends on my mood and how hungry I am that day, or how big of meals I'm eating. So don't feel like you have to get stuck into one place where you have to only eat a certain number of meals a day. Just eat when you're hungry. And over time, you will find a rhythm that is naturally intuitive for you that helps you feel your best. Another thing we covered was to eat a wide variety of foods and to try new foods. This doesn't mean that you have to get so crazy in the kitchen where you have all these new herbs that you don't know what to do with, but to incorporate 1 or 2 new fruits and vegetables into your diet every single week as best as you can. Also, to build your plate on the staple high-calorie foods that are going to be the most satisfactory and also super nutritious for you. So that would be whole grains, tubers, beans as the main sources of your food, and also high-calorie fruits if you have access to some really good high-calorie fruits like we do here. We love to eat a lot of fruit in our diet, and that doesn't necessarily mean that that's how much that you're going to want to eat. But over time, you will find what you're going to gravitate to that's going to help you feel your best. And that's the beauty of eating abundantly like that. Another thing we touched on was to get creative in the kitchen and don't feel like you have to stay in this rut of eating the same kind of cuisine. There are so many amazing plant-based meals that you can eat of all different kinds of cuisines that are so satisfying and super delicious and super good for you. So I next want to touch on supplements. First and foremost, let me be clear, I am not an expert. I highly recommend that you take the advice of your healthcare professional and do not just take my word for it. In fact, don't take my word for anything that I'm saying. Research and look up and contemplate and consider other experts. Well, I don't consider myself an expert, just an expert of experience, but look up experts when it comes to supplements, of course. Something really important about this is that there's a lot of diets out there that say that we're not about supplements and we eat in a way that doesn't need supplements. But then when it comes down to it, they're like, actually, wait, you need this supplement and this supplement and this supplement. And it's just a little bit contradictory. There's also ways of eating that just really full on promote all kinds of supplements that just fill up the cabinet. And that is not the way the whole foods plant-based eating promotes. What's amazing is that food should be the mass majority of your nutrition. But that doesn't mean that you can't enjoy or include some supplements in your diet that's going to be super beneficial for you. Specifically B12, if you're eating a plant-based diet, B12 is definitely something that you need to be taking. This doesn't necessarily mean that you need to take it right when you go plant-based, as the stores can last up a while. But look into and find the right B12 for you, especially over time. B12 comes from bacteria, and it's surprisingly that a lot of people don't realize it doesn't come from animal foods. Animals get it from the soil. Actually, a lot of factory farms and a lot of animal agriculture is injecting B12 into the animals because it's just not there anymore, because the soil is just not as nutrient dense as it used to be. We also, as a species, used to get B12 from the water that we drink and from soil on our foods without washing it. But we don't live like that anymore, and the water is just not as clean and good as it used to be. So a B12 supplement is super integral on a plant-based diet. You definitely don't want to miss out on that. Some doctors and experts recommend an omega-3 supplement. Our family doesn't take it, but you're going to need to find out whether you should take it or not. It really depends on family to family, whether they feel they need to take it based on their healthcare professionals. We eat a lot of wonderful omega-3 rich plants, and there's a lot of understanding that the debate and the importance of omega-3s isn't so much that you need to severely increase your omega-3s. It's that if you're eating a diet that's naturally low in omega-6 and you also include omega-3s in your diet, you're going to have a healthy balance of the 3-to-6 ratio, because it's the ratio that is the most important. So if you're eating a diet that's naturally low in omega-6s, so you're not eating a lot of those processed oils or other kinds of foods that are rich in omega-6, but then you are including omega-3 seeds in your diet, like hemp seeds, flax seeds, and chia, that's a great way to get your omega-3s. But there are plant-based doctors that I see that recommend to supplement that for all plant-based people. So you're going to have to figure out and find out what is the best for you and your family. Barley grass juice powder is one of my favorite green powders to take. It is a rich source in vitamin A and K. It's very high potency. It also is an excellent source of iron and manganese, and is a good source of chromium and magnesium, and contains trace amounts of phosphorus, zinc, copper, and calcium as well. We love barley grass juice powder because it's a whole food based supplement, minimally processed, and it's a great addition to an already whole foods plant-based diet, especially for if you're not getting 100% of your plant foods from super dense soil that you know to be super nutritious. It's just a great extra added thing to your diet that I have found very helpful in my diet and my lifestyle, and it's definitely my favorite. The barley grass juice powder that we take is dailygreenboost.com. I know the owner there. He's very, very meticulous in the process, and it's just a wonderful, wonderful supplement, barley grass juice powder. Other than those 3 supplements, possibly omega-3 if you need that, definitely B12, and possibly a barley grass juice powder or a nutrient-dense green powder. The rest is up to depending on how important and well-planned and diverse your diet is. For instance, like selenium, you can eat a Brazil nut throughout your week, eat Brazil nuts here and there, as opposed to taking a selenium supplement. And if you're doing a good job at helping the biodiversity and the bioavailability of your foods to ensure adequate zinc absorption and iron absorption, you can get that through your food. But it really depends on how well planned your diet is. And if you're eating a wide variety and a wide range of whole plant foods, specifically if you're getting organic and getting some farmers market produce as well, you really should not be having a problem with getting all of those nutrients met, specifically and especially if you're eating enough calories, because the more bites of food that you're eating, the more nutrients you're getting into your body, specifically from whole plant foods. Another one is sea vegetables. We love to eat sea vegetables. Specifically, dulse is where we get our iodine. We love to eat dulse throughout the week in our salads, and we put it on curries as well. So I highly recommend getting some sea vegetables into your diet. You could go with akame or nori, but nori is not as high in iodine as the other sea vegetables, so just keep that in mind. All right, now I really want to talk about how health is so much more than food. You could be completely focused on the food that you're putting in your body, but missing all the other really important factors that create strong health markers and feeling your best. Because if you're not getting enough sleep, but you're eating all the adequate food, like the lack of sleep is going to cause just as much health problems as just not eating nutritionally. All of it matters, and I think a really good way that we can look into what's going to help us thrive and promote longevity is to look at the blue zones, like I've talked about before. They're very actually obvious and make so much sense, but when it's laid out like this, especially in a world where we have been taught to be so fast-paced, it can be very helpful to remind ourselves. Adequate sleep is integral for long-term health. 7 to 8 hours is generally what's recommended. And you breastfeeding mothers out there, breastfeeding at night, I completely feel you, because it's completely out of your control at that point and phase in your life to get deep sleep without interruption. I saw this one meme once that was like, what is your deepest fantasy? That like a partner's asking a girl, what's your deepest fantasy? And it says 8 to 10 hours of uninterrupted sleep. And oh man, that is definitely one of the best fantasies for a mother with young children, for sure. So what I say for this is to just do the best you can. Know that it's a phase of life that will not be forever. And create other habits around your life that can help you to ensure deep sleep and to be able to fall back asleep when your baby wakes you up. And so that you're not laying there in the middle of the night. Things like making sure you're eating enough calories and eating enough for dinner so you're not going to bed on an empty stomach. That doesn't mean you necessarily have to be on a full stomach, but to be able to have not an empty stomach, I think helps to be able to fall asleep easily and stay asleep, to eat nutritionally as well, and not having like blue lights and a lot of screens around you before bed. So and then also just going to bed earlier. I know it's tough because you don't get alone time really throughout the day, and that's your one time to really be alone. But I try to find a balance and have a balance where I get some alone time after my kids go to bed, but I also don't like overdo it and stay up past a reasonable time. So I get that hour or so with my partner, and then I head to bed 9:30 or 10. I'm in bed and I'm falling asleep because I know I'm going to get woken up multiple times throughout the night. And if you're not a breastfeeding mother and you're listening to this, take the other factors into account as well to make sure you're getting deep sleep. Something that really helps you to get deep sleep throughout your week is to move your body throughout the week and be active. This doesn't mean you need to work out vigorously for 6 to 7 days a week. Not at all. It could be as simple as 2 to 3 days a week, moving your body for 30 to 40 minutes a day, and trying to walk more places if that's available to you and you live in a place where you could walk more areas. I feel my best working out 3 to 4 times a week, but these days with how busy I am, sometimes 2 times a week is all that happens. I personally love high intensity workouts and weighted lunges and weighted workouts, but find what exercise you love that you'll look forward to every single week. Regularly exercising has so many benefits and supports your health on so many levels. It supports your metabolism, it helps muscle tone, it helps you fall asleep and stay asleep at night, and so much more. I found that moving your body in a consistent manner, so it's part of your lifestyle, really helps you to have good, deep sleep. And the last thing I want to touch on is sunshine. Getting in the sun is so important. We've moved from these largely outdoor creatures to largely indoor creatures in the matter of a century, and sunshine is so essential for health. It's one of the most amazing things for your body, and it doesn't mean that you need to overdo it. There's obviously a balance in everything. If you overdo anything, it's not good for you, but the sun is the happy vitamin, your vitamin D, and I find a lot of benefit from making sure I'm getting adequate sunshine, which also I think helps with sleep, is to get sun during the day. And that's actually a supplement I forgot to touch on. Some people will need to supplement, especially if you live in harsh winters or have strong seasons or simply just don't get adequate sunshine. We are supposed to be getting our vitamin D from the sun, but that's simply not possible for a lot of people these days, especially being just largely indoor societies, the way that we've turned into. So speak to your healthcare provider and get your levels checked and go from there. Researchers found the lifestyles of all the Blue Zone area residents share 9 specific characteristics, and I just want to read them off. You can check this out on like the Blue Zone study online as well. It's super fascinating. They move naturally. They know their purpose. They downshift, meaning that the world's longest living people have routines that shed the stress. It's also, I think, really helpful to understand that if you're eating an adequate and nutritionally rich diet and living in a way that's going to help you manage that stress so that it can handle it very well, because honestly, you're never going to be able to shed your stress completely, especially in the world that we live in today. But taking both into account by living in a way that's super nutritious for you, as well as following habits that can help you shed stress, I think is a good balance. The next one is that they have the 80% rule. They actually don't eat until they're completely full. They eat about 80%, and then they end up finding themselves feeling full 10 to 20 minutes after that. They have a plant slant, meaning that the majority of the blue zones consume only small amounts of meat on rare occasions. And all of them eat a rich array of fresh fruits and vegetables, which are packed with disease-fighting nutrients that I talked about in the last episode. Number 6 is that they have wine at 5. And number 7 is that they have what they call a right tribe. The world's longest living people on the earth are either born into or choose to create social circles that support healthy behaviors. The Karians enjoy tight-knit communities that socialize frequently, while the Okinawans build what's called a moai, group of friends that commit to each other for life. Number 8 is that they have belonging. And the 9th one is that they have loved ones first. They care about their loved ones as for the rest of their lives. And I think part of that goes into taking care of your parents and them not putting them in like a retirement home, but spending time with them in their old age, which is really helpful for them to be near family. And I'm not going to talk about all of these, but I do want to touch on a few of them. The first one being stress. Lowering your stress is so important, but let's provide proper nutrition and sleep so that your body can handle the stress well. The quality of sleep that you get is super important, but also the amount of stress in your life is going to have a huge impact. For me, I feel like I have a kind of a high stress life at least in the phase of life that I'm in, but I try my best to minimize it where I can and make sure to take like days off when it could be easy to just keep going, because with my job, there's really like a never ending list. I never just finish the check off list. It's never like, okay, done. Now I can just, take a week off or whatever. I have to actively choose to de-stress in that way and tell myself that the rest of work, I can get to it a little bit later. Because stress, having too much stress leads to chronic inflammation, which is associated with every major age-related illness. It's super important not to live like a super, super high stress lifestyle. And if you are one of those people that has a job that's very high stress, I mean, that's essential, like an ambulance worker or a firefighter, like seriously, mad props to you for all the work that you do to help people in the world. Hopefully it's not something that you have to do your entire life, and that you can find ways to live a lower stress lifestyle at certain parts in your life. Another one I want to talk about is purpose. Some studies show that, I think it said that only 30% of people find their job to bring them a lot of purpose, and the rest of people do their job just because it's the way to make an income for themselves and their family. But you can find purpose in other ways if your job doesn't bring you a lot of purpose. I find immense purpose in raising my children and the relationships that I have. But I am one of those people that finds a lot of purpose in my job. It really I thrive on it. I thrive on just the next thing that I'm going to be doing, and I love to make an impact. I love all the messages that you guys send me, and it really does give me a lot of purpose. And really, purpose can come from so many different places, and whether it's your job or your relationships or your faith or so many different things within your life, that I think it's just really important to make sure that that's something that is a priority for you. If you're doing a job that you hate and you are struggling going through life without having much purpose in your life, I hope that you can find ways to take action and have victor mentality to completely shift your life so that purpose and passion and drive and feeling so much gratitude and satisfaction in the things that you're doing throughout your day and your life. I hope that can shift. I feel like I didn't say my sentence grammatically correct. I don't know where it was going, but I hope that can shift for you, because there is really so much joy in finding purpose within what you're doing in your life. And we can also see that throughout the blue zones. The next one is mindset. I think mindset is so key and pivotal, and I want to talk a lot about mindset, growth mindset, victor mentality, to be successful in life, not just through something like finances or status, because that is super superficial when it comes to status. But when it comes to your own mentality, within yourself, how you view yourself, how you look at yourself, that reflects out into the world, and the way that you are treating other people and how you treat yourself inside really affects your health, because the things that you're telling yourself matters. The story that you tell yourself and who you are inside and the effect you're having on the world has a huge impact on your mental health. And I really want to do more episodes on this topic, specifically on mental health and victim mentality in the future. That is going to be coming up, so stay tuned for that. But I feel like that kind of that rounds out what I wanted to say for this episode today. There's obviously so much more that can be said to simplify your life and to create an environment through the foods that you're eating and the way that you're living that's going to help you thrive. But I feel like we touched on a lot of the basics and a lot of the foundational principles, and definitely things that have helped me immensely to thrive and to feel my best and to experience health and wellness. One thing I want to say as we round out this episode is to be realistic about your health and don't be hard on yourself. Things are going to come up over the years. There really is no one person that experiences like perfect health for the rest of their life, no matter who you think they are, no matter what influencer you see that's telling you this is the key. There really is going to be people throughout every type of diet and lifestyle, no matter how they go through life. There's going to be things that come up over the years, and to not expect to be superhuman. And yeah, this isn't meant to say like after all this, oh, actually you're not going to feel that great, because that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is, through thriving, through healing, through coming through such great triumphs in your health to feel so well, also don't think that just because something comes up, like a little thing here and there, that must mean that there's something wrong with you or something wrong with the way that you're living. Try to be mindful and be conscious and realistic about taking into account different types of things. And you don't need to jump so quickly to think that, oh, it must be this, it must be that. Because a lot of times you might look back and be like, actually, it was something completely different. I thought it was this, but really I was not sleeping well, or I was not getting sunshine, I was not exercising, all these things. Taking that into account, I think, is super helpful. And just to expect to be superhuman. And if you're finding this information overwhelming because you have so much to change within your lifestyle that you know will help you to achieve health and vitality, fret not, because it does get easier over time. If you include these daily practices little by little, it becomes easier and it doesn't feel so monumental. And it actually simplifies your life so much when you take into consideration and start living these foundational, simple principles in ways that we are supposed to thrive. And, something else I think is really important is that there's a stigma about eating plant-based in particular, but really any diet, when you start eating more mindfully and consciously and more healthfully, and you start to eat more fruits and vegetables, because before you started eating this way, no one cared about what you ate. They did not care at all, never had anything to say. But the moment you go plant-based, or the moment you start eating fruits and vegetables in abundance, is the moment that everyone's going to have all these questions or have all these things to say about why you shouldn't be eating that way. But really, health, and honestly, this goes with so much more than just food. This goes with lifestyles as well, and the way that you're choosing to live that might be counter to the norm of what most people are living. But please just keep doing you. You will never be at peace with yourself, and you might actually miss out on some of the biggest blessings in your life, including healing, if you care so much about what other people think, and you care about how other people are viewing you. You have to do you, and know that the journey that you're on is going to help you to create vitality and wellness and feel your best. And that's just, I think, one of the most important points, is to just go on your journey and keep doing you. And have balance, right? Like everything in moderation when it comes to plant-based eating. I don't even think I really touched on this. I know I'm just ending right now, but I didn't touch that much on like, don't expect to just be perfect all the time. What you bring to the majority in your home versus what you eat out and about once a week or once every 2 weeks is not going to affect your overall health. It's the foundational principles of what you're eating and the foundational way that you're living through your lifestyle that matters the most. So I hope you enjoyed this episode, and I will see you next one. Thanks. Bye.